The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystal plains of Kepler. 442b as Captain Jake Morrison watched the peaceful Altarian farmers tend their glowing crops. From his position on the hillside, the human research vessel Liberty's Edge sat hidden behind a natural rock formation, its sensors quietly recording everything. "Beautiful world," whispered Lisa Brooks, his navigator, as she adjusted the long-range scanner. "Hard to believe anyone would want to destroy this." Jake nodded grimly. The intelligence reports from Earth had been clear. The Zephyrian Dominion was expanding again, and peaceful worlds like this one were always their first targets. He had hoped the reports were wrong, but deep in his gut, he knew better. The Liberty's Edge was a small ship, with a crew of just 4. Jake had been exploring the outer systems for 3 years, mapping new worlds for Earth's growing colonies. Lisa Brooks handled navigation with skill that amazed him daily. Pete Collins kept their engines running smooth, and Amy Watson made sure they could talk to anyone in the galaxy. They were good people, and Jake trusted them with his life. "Captain," Amy's voice crackled through the comm system from inside the ship. "I'm picking up multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace. Big ones." Jake's blood went cold. He grabbed his binoculars and scanned the sky. 3 dark shapes appeared against the blue atmosphere, growing larger by the second. The Zephyrian ships looked like massive beetles with metal shells and glowing red eyes. Each one was easily 10 times the size of his little research vessel. "Pete, warm up the engines," Jake ordered quietly. "Keep them on standby." Below in the valley, the Altarians had stopped working. Their tall, graceful forms stood motionless as they stared at the approaching ships. Jake could see their fear even from this distance. The Altarians were peaceful people who had never known war. Their technology was focused on farming and art, not fighting. The lead Zephyrian ship landed in the center of the farming village with a thunderous roar. Its landing thrusters scorched the beautiful crystal crops, turning them to ash. The other 2 ships took positions on either side, their weapon turrets swiveling to cover all escape routes. A ramp lowered from the first ship, and the Zephyrians marched out. They were huge reptilian creatures, each one nearly 8 feet tall with thick scales and razor-sharp claws. Their leader wore elaborate armor decorated with the bones of conquered enemies. Jake had seen pictures in the intelligence files, but seeing them in person made his stomach turn. The Altarians gathered in the village square, their leader stepping forward with dignity, despite his obvious terror. Elder Morhan was ancient even by Altarian standards, his silver hair flowing like water in the alien breeze. He had led his people for over a century of peace. "Greetings, visitors," Elder Morhan said in perfect galactic standard. "How may we serve you?" The Zephyrian commander, whose armor marked him as Vextar according to Jake's files, laughed with a sound like grinding metal. "You will serve us by giving us everything you have, little farmer. This world now belongs to the Dominion." Jake felt Lisa tense beside him. She was young and had never seen real cruelty before. Her hands shook as she recorded everything through the ship's cameras. "Surely we can reach an understanding," Elder Morhan replied calmly. "We are a peaceful people. We offer no threat to your great empire. Understanding?" Vextar's voice dripped with contempt. "The only understanding you need is this. You will give us 80% of all food production. You will provide 500 workers for our mining operations. You will build a garrison for our troops within 30 days. The elder's face went pale, but he stood firm. "Commander, such demands would mean starvation for our children. Perhaps we could arrange a smaller tribute that would not." Vextar's plasma rifle fired once. Elder Morhan collapsed to the ground, his chest burned through. The other Altarians screamed and scattered, but the Zephyrian soldiers herded them back with their weapons. "Anyone else want to negotiate?" Vextar asked loudly. Jake's hands clenched into fists. Beside him, Lisa was crying silently. From the ship, he could hear Pete cursing in 3 languages, while Amy reported a massacre to her recording systems. A younger Altarian, probably Morhan's son, knelt beside the elder's body. We will comply with your demands," he said through his grief. "Smart," Vextar replied. "I am leaving 2 squads here to ensure you remember your place. Any resistance will result in the elimination of this entire settlement. We will return in 1 month to collect our first payment. The Zephyrians loaded half the adult Altarians into transport ships. Jake watched families torn apart, children reaching for parents who would never return. The mining crews had a life expectancy of 6 months, according to intelligence reports. These people were being sent to die. As the Zephyrian ships lifted off, Jake made his decision. Amy, prepare a priority transmission to Earth Defense Command. Full encryption. Jake, that will give away our position, Lisa warned. If they detect the signal, then we better make it count, Jake replied grimly. Pete, plot a jump course back toward Earth. Keep us hidden until Amy finishes the transmission. Amy worked quickly, her fingers flying over the communication console. Channel open, Captain. Jake took a deep breath. Earth Defense Command. This is Captain Jake Morrison aboard the Liberty's Edge. Position Kepler, 442b, Outer Rim. We have witnessed Zephyrian forces committing genocide against civilian populations. They have established a regional command base at coordinates 445.7 by 112.3. The situation is worse than our worst intelligence estimates suggested. He paused, thinking of Elder Morhan's dignity in the face of death, of the children crying for parents who would never come home. Command, I am transmitting all sensor data and recordings. These people need help, and there are 17 other worlds in the same situation, according to intercepted communications. The Zephyrians believe they are the strongest force in this region of space. I think it's time we prove them wrong. Jake's voice hardened with determination. Send everything you have. These monsters need to learn what happens when you threaten Earth's friends. Morrison out. Amy closed the channel and began transmitting the data burst. It would take months to reach Earth across the vast distances of space, but Jake knew it would get there. Earth never abandoned its allies. Course laid in, Captain, Pete reported. We can jump as soon as Amy finishes. Transmission complete, Amy announced. All data sent. Then let's get out of here, Jake ordered. But we're not going home yet. If help is coming, someone needs to keep an eye on these bastards until it arrives. The Liberty's Edge jumped to hyperspace, leaving the conquered world behind. But Jake Morrison and his crew were not running away. They were positioning themselves to guide Earth's vengeance when it finally came. In the village below, the surviving Altarians buried their elder and wondered if anyone in the galaxy cared enough to help them. They would have their answer soon enough. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison sent his desperate message toward Earth. The Kepler system had become a fortress of Zephyrian power, with Admiral Karatha's massive flagship Dominion's wrath anchored at the center of it all. The dreadnought was a monster of black metal and glowing red energy conduits, 3 kilometers long and bristling with enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. It served as both command center and symbol of Zephyrian dominance. Around it, dozens of smaller warships patrolled the system like hungry sharks. Admiral Karatha stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display with satisfaction. The reptilian commander was old even by Zephyrian standards, his scales scarred from 100 battles across the galaxy. He had spent 2 centuries building the Dominion's power, and these outer rim worlds were his final conquest before retirement. Status report, Karatha commanded, his voice echoing through the massive bridge. Commander Vextar approached with a data tablet. The tribute collections are ahead of schedule, Admiral. The slave populations are working efficiently. 17 worlds now contribute to our mining operations. Excellent. Karatha's claws tapped against the command console. And resistance? Minimal. A few underground groups, but nothing our security forces cannot handle. The local species have accepted their place in our empire. Karatha nodded with satisfaction. These soft creatures never put up much of a fight once you killed enough of their leaders. It was a simple formula that had worked for centuries. Sir, called a sensor operator from across the bridge. Long-range scanners are detecting an anomaly. Both Karatha and Vextar turned toward the young technician. Explain, the Admiral demanded. Unknown contact, bearing 270 Mark 15. Distance approximately 2 light hours. The signature appears and disappears randomly. Our scouts report finding nothing when they investigate. Karatha frowned. Ghosts on the sensors usually meant equipment failure or solar interference. Run full diagnostics on the sensor array. I want this mystery solved. Already completed, sir. All systems show green. The contact is real, but does not match any known ship class in our database. The Admiral studied the tactical display more carefully. The contact had appeared 17 times over the past week, always at the edge of sensor range, always disappearing before scouts could reach its position. It was almost as if something was watching them. Double the patrol schedules, Koroth ordered. I want every approach vector covered. If someone is spying on us, I want them found and destroyed. Light years away, hidden by technology beyond Zephyrian understanding, the Terran Battleship Defiance thunder drifted silently through space. The quantum phase cloak that surrounded the massive vessel bent light and energy around its hull, making it invisible to all known detection methods. Captain Beth Martinez stood in the ship's war room, studying the holographic display of the enemy fleet. She was a career military officer who had worked her way up through Earth's expanding navy. Her brown hair was streaked with early gray from years of deep space command, but her green eyes still held a fire of youth. Impressive, commented Lieutenant Commander Roy Thompson, her tactical officer. They have enough firepower here to glass half the outer rim. But not enough to stop us, replied Chief Weapons Officer Dan Parker with confidence. The big man had served on destroyers and cruisers before joining the crew of humanity's most advanced warship. He knew the Defiance Thunder's capabilities better than anyone. Captain Martinez nodded slowly. Earth's response to Jake Morrison's message had been swift and decisive. The Defiance Thunder represented the pinnacle of human military technology, built in the secret shipyards of Luna and powered by a controlled black hole reactor that generated more energy than most stars. Status of the cloak? Martinez asked. Holding steady, Captain, replied Engineer First Class Carl Johnson from his position at the engineering console. The quantum phase generators were his design, based on theories that most alien races considered impossible. We could stay hidden here for months if needed. Martinez studied the tactical display again. The Zephyrian fleet was massive, but it was also predictable. Their ships moved in standard formation patterns. Their patrol routes followed mathematical precision. They had grown comfortable with their dominance, and comfort bred carelessness. Communications. Any word from our advanced scout? Amy Watson's voice came through the comm system from her position on the bridge. Jake Morrison had insisted on staying with his little research vessel, gathering intelligence from hiding spots throughout the system. His reports had been invaluable for planning their approach. Morrison reports 3 more transport ships arrived this morning. Captain, looks like they are bringing in additional mining equipment. The slave populations are being worked to death. Martinez felt anger burn in her chest. The intelligence reports painted a clear picture of systematic genocide disguised as economic exploitation. Entire species were being slowly exterminated to feed the Zephyrian war machine. Time frame for the fleet from Earth? She asked. Admiral Adams estimates another 3 months before the main battle group arrives, Thompson replied. He's bringing everything Earth Defense Command can spare. 3 months. Martinez looked at the tactical display again, counting enemy ships. The Defiance Thunder was powerful, but taking on an entire fleet single-handed was suicide by any normal calculation. However, the Defiance Thunder was not a normal ship. Weapons status, Mr. Parker? All systems green, Captain. Plasma lance batteries charged and ready. Quantum torpedo tubes loaded. Point defense systems online. We can engage at any time. Martinez walked to the main view screen and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Jake Morrison was hiding and watching, waiting for help that might come too late. On 17 worlds, innocent people were dying while she debated tactics and strategy. Captain, said Dr. Helen Clark, the ship's chief medical officer, entering the war room, I have been monitoring alien transmissions. The medical data is disturbing. Conservative estimates suggest we lose another 50,000 lives each day we wait. 50,000 people. Every day. Martinez closed her eyes and thought of her oath as a Terran Defense Force officer. She had sworn to protect Earth and its allies from all enemies. These people had become Earth's allies the moment they asked for help. Tactical analysis, Mr. Thompson. What are our chances if we engage immediately? Thompson studied his displays carefully before answering. Against a standard fleet, I would say impossible. But their weapons and defenses are designed to fight other conventional forces. Our plasma technology and quantum shields give us significant advantages. I estimate 70% probability of success if we achieve complete surprise. And if we wait for Admiral Adams, 95% probability of victory with minimal casualties. Martinez thought about those numbers. 95% chance of easy victory in 3 months against 70% chance of costly victory today. The mathematics were clear, but mathematics did not account for the 50,000 people dying each day while she waited for better odds. Prepare for combat operations, Martinez ordered. All stations, battle alert. We attack in 6 hours. Thompson looked surprised. Captain, are you certain? The risk is acceptable, Commander. We did not come here to fight a safe battle. We came here to stop a genocide. Martinez turned to face her officers. The Zephyrians have ruled through fear for 2 centuries. It is time they learn what fear feels like. As the Defiance Thunder began its final approach toward the enemy fleet, Captain Martinez thought about Jake Morrison's words from months ago. These monsters needed to learn what happened when they threatened Earth's friends. They were about to get their lesson. Admiral Koroth gazed out from the observation deck of the Dominion's Wrath, watching his fleet conduct final preparations. Today would mark the end of organized resistance in the Kepler system. 3 worlds still harbored rebel populations, but that problem would be solved within hours. The massive conference room aboard the flagship buzzed with activity as fleet commanders gathered around a holographic display. 12 cruiser captains, 47 escort commanders, and the crews of 3 dreadnoughts all awaited their orders for the final assault. Gentlemen, Koroth began, his scarred face reflecting the glow of the tactical display. Today we complete our conquest of this region. The remaining populations will be eliminated or enslaved. There will be no survivors to spread tales of resistance. Commander Vextar activated the display, showing the 3 target worlds. Our intelligence suggests approximately 2 million civilians remain on these planets. Most are hiding in underground facilities or mountain caves. Then we will collapse the caves, replied Captain Morgoth of the Painbringer. Orbital bombardment should flush them out within hours. Koroth nodded approvingly. Morgoth understood the proper use of overwhelming force. Begin deployment in 30 minutes. I want these worlds reduced to ash by sunset. As the commanders filed out to return to their ships, Koroth felt the satisfaction of another successful campaign. 200 years of conquest had taught him that lesser species always fell before superior firepower. It was a natural order of the galaxy. The Admiral was reviewing final attack vectors when reality exploded around him. The Defiance Thunder materialized directly above the Zephyrian flagship, its quantum phase cloak dissolving like morning mist. The human battleship was enormous, its dark hull bristling with weapons that no Zephyrian had ever seen before. Blue energy crackled along its plasma lance arrays as they swiveled toward their targets. What in the void? Koroth began. Chief Weapons Officer Dan Parker's voice echoed across the Terran ship's bridge as he confirmed target lock. All weapons ready, Captain. Firing. The main plasma lance batteries opened fire simultaneously. 3 columns of superheated matter, each one hotter than the core of a star, struck their targets with devastating precision. The Zephyrian cruiser blood harvest simply disappeared, vaporized instantly by the alien technology. The dreadnought Iron Fist suffered a direct hit to its reactor section and exploded in a brilliant fireball that could be seen from orbit. The quantum torpedoes followed seconds later. Each one warped space-time around its target, crushing hulls like paper and tearing entire sections of ships apart at the molecular level. 5 more Zephyrian vessels died in the opening salvo. On the bridge of the Defiance Thunder, Captain Martinez watched the tactical display update as enemy ships disappeared from the screen. Communications. Open a channel to all Zephyrian vessels. Amy Watson's fingers flew across her console. Channel open, Captain. Martinez's voice carried across the system on all frequencies, reaching every ship in the enemy fleet. This is Captain Elizabeth Martinez of the Terran Defense Force. You have exactly 30 seconds to cease all hostile actions and release your prisoners. Admiral Koras stared at the massive human ship through his bridge's view screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The vessel was impossibly large, larger than anything in the Dominion fleet, and its weapons had just destroyed some of his most powerful ships as if they were made of paper. "Where did they come from?" he demanded of his sensor operator. "Unknown, sir. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors showed no approach vector." Commander Vextar, who had taken command of the bridge after Karatha's initial shock, snarled with rage. "One ship against our entire fleet? They must be insane. All vessels," Vextar broadcast to the fleet, "concentrate fire on the human ship. Destroy them immediately." The Zephyrian fleet responded with everything they had. Hundreds of plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy weapons opened fire on the Defiant's thunder. The space around the human battleship filled with deadly energy as the combined firepower of 40 vessels struck its shields. The deflector shields held firm. Engineer First Class Carl Johnson monitored his displays in the engine room, watching the shield frequencies automatically adjust to counter each incoming attack. Shields holding at 96%, Captain. Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Captain Martinez smiled grimly. Earth scientists had studied captured Zephyrian technology for years, learning its weaknesses and limitations. The human shields were specifically designed to counter every weapon in the Dominion arsenal. "Return fire, Mr. Parker. Target their command vessels first." The Defiant's thunder began to move, its massive bulk accelerating with impossible grace. The artificial gravity systems protected the crew from the crushing forces as Martinez ordered evasive maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship of such size. Lieutenant Commander Roy Thompson coordinated the targeting systems from his tactical station. Identifying enemy command structure now. Marking priority targets. Fire Control Officer Kate Newman's hands danced across her console as the ship's advanced computers calculated firing solutions. Target lock acquired on enemy flagship. Permission to engage? Granted. Fire at will. The plasma lances spoke again, their blue fire reaching across space to strike the Dominion's wrath. The Zephyrian flagship's shields flared and collapsed under the assault, leaving it hull exposed to the devastating energy weapons. Explosions rippled across the dreadnought's surface as entire sections were burned away. Admiral Korath found himself thrown to the deck as his ship shuddered under the impact. Emergency lights flickered throughout the bridge as damage reports flooded in from all sections. "Shields down to 20%, the defense coordinator reported. "Hull breaches on deck 7 through 15. Engineering reports reactor instability." "Impossible," Korath whispered, pulling himself upright. No single ship could possess such firepower. The Defiant's thunder continued its deadly dance to the Zephyrian fleet, its weapons finding targets with ruthless efficiency. Each shot was precisely calculated to cause maximum damage, whether by hitting reactor cores, weapon systems, or command sections. Thompson identified another priority target, Zephyrian Dreadnought's Soul Crusher, attempting to organize a defensive formation. "Recommend immediate engagement." "Agreed," Martinez replied. "Parker, put her out of our misery." A spread of quantum torpedoes reached out toward the Soul Crusher, warping space around the massive vessel. The Dreadnought's hull began to twist and buckle as reality itself bent around the weapons. Within seconds, the ship folded in on itself and disappeared in a flash of twisted metal. Dr. Helen Clark monitored the battle from the medical bay, treating the few human casualties from console explosions and minor injuries. So far, her biggest challenge had been treating one crewman for motion sickness from the violent maneuvering. "Medical to bridge," she reported. "All casualties minor. We are operating at full effectiveness." On the Zephyrian side, the story was very different. Half their fleet was already destroyed or disabled, while the human ship continued to fight as if it had just entered the battle. Panic was spreading to the remaining vessels as their crews realized they were facing something beyond their understanding. Commander Vextar, his own command ship burning around him, made a desperate transmission to Dominion High Command. "Emergency priority message to Central Fleet. We are under attack by unknown human forces." Their technology is beyond our capabilities. Repeat, the humans are not what we believe them to be. His transmission was cut short as another plasma lance burst struck his ship's communication array. The Defiant's thunder was systematically destroying the enemy's ability to call for help or coordinate their defense. Captain Martinez watched the tactical display as enemy ships began trying to retreat. Thompson, do not let them escape. Pursue and destroy. Yes, ma'am. Engaging quantum drive. The human battleship disappeared and reappeared directly in front of the fleeing Zephyrian vessels, cutting off their escape route. The quantum drive allowed instantaneous travel across short distances, making escape impossible for the slower alien ships. What had begun as Admiral Karatha's final victory had become a massacre. The Zephyrian Dominion's most powerful fleet was being destroyed by a single human warship, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The space around the Kepler system had become a graveyard of twisted metal and burning debris. What remained of Admiral Karatha's mighty fleet limped through space, desperately trying to reach the hyperspace jump points. But the human battleship followed them like an angel of death, its weapons reaching out to claim victim after victim. Commander Vextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In 4 hours of combat, they had lost 38 ships to the single human vessel. His own command cruiser Razor's Edge was missing half its hull, held together by emergency force fields and sheer luck. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his bridge crew, though he feared the answer. 11 vessels still capable of combat, sir," replied his tactical officer. 6 more are abandoned and drifting. The rest gone. Vextar felt something he had never experienced in 2 decades of conquest. Genuine fear. The humans had come from nowhere with technology that made the Dominion's weapons look like primitive clubs. Worse, they fought with cold precision that suggested this was not their full strength. On the Defiant's thunder, Lieutenant Commander Roy Thompson marked another target for destruction. His tactical computers had identified every enemy vessel's weak points, weapon systems, and command centers. The battle had become a methodical elimination of Zephyrian military power. "Target the cruiser Bone Crusher," Thompson announced. "She is trying to coordinate the remaining escorts." Fire Control Officer Kate Newman adjusted her targeting systems. Lock acquired. Distance 4,000 kilometers. Fire when ready. The plasma lance battery sent 3 focused beams across the void, striking the Zephyrian cruiser's bridge tower. The entire command section exploded in a shower of molten metal, leaving the ship dead in space with no one to give orders. Captain Martinez watched the slaughter with grim satisfaction. Each destroyed ship meant fewer weapons pointed at innocent civilians, fewer soldiers to oppress conquered worlds. The Zephyrians had earned this fate through 2 centuries of cruelty. "Captain," called Amy Watson from communications, "I am receiving surrender requests from multiple enemy vessels." Martinez considered this for a moment. Military doctrine called for accepting surrenders when possible, but these were not ordinary soldiers. These were the enforcers of genocide, the murderers of entire civilizations. "Ignore the surrenders," she ordered coldly. "Continue firing until all military vessels are neutralized." Engineer First Class Carl Johnson monitored the ship's power systems from a station in the engine room. The controlled black hole reactor was performing flawlessly, generating enough energy to power their weapons indefinitely. They could continue this battle for days, if necessary. "Engineering the bridge," he reported. "All systems operating at optimal efficiency. No signs of stress or overheating. We can maintain this pace as long as needed." The remaining Zephyrian ships had given up trying to fight and were now focused entirely on escape. But the Defiant's thunder's quantum drive made pursuit effortless. Every time a group of ships approached a jump point, the human battleship would appear ahead of them, weapons charged and ready. Admiral Karath, his flagship barely holding together, made one final attempt at communication. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Karath of the Zephyrian Dominion. I request parley under the ancient laws of warfare." Captain Martinez's voice came back cold as space itself. "The only law you understand is force, Admiral. You showed no mercy to the world you conquered, and you will receive none from us." "You do not understand," Karath replied desperately. "We are part of something larger." Destroying us will only bring greater retaliation. The Dominion spans half the galaxy. Then we will deal with the rest of your empire when we find them, Martinez answered. But today, your reign of terror ends here. Dr. Helen Clark had left the medical bay to observe the battle from the bridge. As the ship's senior medical officer, she understood the psychological profiles of predator species like the Zephyrians. They respected only superior force and would interpret any mercy as weakness. Captain, she said quietly, their communications are being transmitted across their empire. Other Dominion forces will know about our capabilities. Martinez nodded. Good. Let them prepare whatever defenses they think will help. When Admiral Adams arrives with the main fleet, we will show them that this was just the beginning. The Defiant's thunder continued its deadly work. The quantum torpedoes twisted space around their targets, crushing hulls into impossible shapes before the ships vanished entirely. The plasma lances cut through armor like paper, igniting fuel tanks and reactor cores with surgical precision. Commander Vextar found himself in command of the largest remaining group of ships, 3 damaged cruisers and 2 escorts. His communications officer was receiving constant distress calls from ships throughout the fleet, but there was nothing he could do to help them. Sir, his sensor operator called out, the human ship is changing course. They are heading directly for us. Vextar looked at the tactical display and saw death approaching. The human battleship moved through space with elegant menace, its weapons already swiveling toward a small formation. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace, he ordered. Scatter to different systems. Some of us must survive to warn the homeworld. But as his ships began their jump calculations, the Defiant's thunder fired again. The quantum torpedoes did not need to hit their targets directly. The space-time distortions they created interfered with hyperspace transitions, trapping the Zephyrian ships in normal space. Jump drives are offline, his engineer reported. The alien weapons are preventing our escape. Vextar realized with growing horror that the humans were not just superior in firepower. They understood the physics of space travel well enough to prevent retreat. His empire had encountered nothing like this in 2 centuries of expansion. Send a final message to Dominion High Command, he ordered. Tell them that the humans are coming. Their ships are beyond our understanding. Prepare the core worlds for invasion. The communication burst reached across the galaxy in seconds, carrying news that would shake the Dominion to its foundation. But Vextar would not live to see the results of his warning. The Defiant's thunder closed the point-blank range and opened fire with all weapons. The remaining Zephyrian ships disappeared in brief flashes of light, their crews never knowing what hit them. Captain Martinez surveyed the battlefield as the last enemy ship died. Debris fields marked the graves of 47 Zephyrian vessels, while our own ship remained untouched by enemy fire. Damage report, she requested. Minor scorch marks on the outer hull, Thompson replied. No structural damage. No casualties. All systems operating normally. Martinez activated the ship-wide communication system. Attention all hands. This is the captain. The Zephyrian fleet has been completely destroyed. The Kepler system is now free from Dominion rule. Cheers echoed to the corridors of the Defiant's thunder as 800 crew members celebrated their victory. But Martinez was already thinking ahead to the larger war that was coming. Communications sent a message to Jake Morrison. Tell him it is safe to come out of hiding. Then contact Earth Defense Command and inform Admiral Adams that the Kepler system is secured. As the last pieces of Zephyrian wreckage drifted through space, Captain Martinez made one final transmission. This one was broadcast on all frequencies in all languages, reaching every corner of the Dominion's empire. This message is for the leaders of the Zephyrian Dominion. Your fleet in the Kepler system has been destroyed. Your reign of terror over innocent civilizations is ending. Humanity has come to settle accounts for 2 centuries of murder and oppression. We suggest you prepare yourselves accordingly. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of human justice had begun. The liberation of Kepler, 442b, began at dawn. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the hills as the Defiant's thunder descended to the morning atmosphere, its massive bulk moving with impossible grace. The surviving Altarians emerged from their hiding places, staring in wonder at the enormous human vessel. "I cannot believe they actually came," whispered Lisa Brooks, tears streaming down her face. For 6 months, she had watched the systematic destruction of innocent civilizations while they waited for help that seemed unlikely to arrive. The battleship settled onto the crystal plains with careful precision, its landing thrusters barely disturbing the regrown crops. Captain Martinez had chosen the landing site personally, avoiding the areas where Elder Morhan and other victims were buried. A ramp extended from the ship's side, and Captain Martinez walked out to meet the survivors. She was followed by Dr. Helen Clark and a team of medical personnel, carrying supplies and equipment. The contrast between the human officers and the towering war machine behind them seemed almost surreal. The new Altarian leader, Kaida, approached with nervous dignity. He had been chosen by the survivors to replace Elder Morhan, though he felt unworthy of the honor. The young farmer had never expected to lead anyone, much less guide his people through the aftermath of genocide. "Greetings," Kaida said in careful galactic standard. We thank you for coming to our aid, though I fear we have little left to offer as payment for your services." Captain Martinez smiled gently. "Payment? We did not come here as mercenaries. Kaida, we came because someone asked for help. That is what allies do for each other." The word allies sent a ripple of amazement through the gathered Altarians. In 2 centuries of Zephyrian rule, they had heard only demands and threats. The concept of equals working together was almost foreign to them. Dr. Clark immediately began setting up medical stations to treat the injured and traumatized survivors. Her team worked with quiet efficiency, offering healing without asking for anything in return. The simple act of kindness from strangers left many Altarians openly weeping. "Your people have suffered greatly," Martinez observed, watching the medical team's work. "But you survived. That takes courage." Jake Morrison descended from his hidden position in the hills, his small crew following behind. The Liberty's Edge had remained concealed throughout the occupation, gathering intelligence and coordinating with underground resistance cells on other worlds. "Captain Martinez," Jake said, approaching with obvious relief, "I have to admit, when I sent that message to Earth, I was not sure anyone would believe it." "Earth Defense Command takes threats to our friends very seriously," Martinez replied. "Your intelligence was invaluable in planning our response." Pete Collins was already examining the Altarian farming equipment damaged by Zephyrian occupation forces. The engineer shook his head at the senseless destruction, but immediately began planning repairs using human technology. Amy Watson established communication links with resistance groups on the other liberated worlds. Her equipment easily penetrated the communication barriers the Zephyrians had erected, allowing separated families to contact each other for the first time in months. The news of the Zephyrian fleet's destruction spread rapidly through underground networks across 17 worlds. For the first time in 2 centuries, oppressed species began to believe that their tormentors could actually be defeated. On the industrial world of Gamma 7, the enslaved Korthani miners stopped their work and stared at the sky. Their overseer, a Zephyrian sergeant named Grax, had received urgent orders to prepare for evacuation. The fear in his voice as he gave the commands was something the slaves had never heard before. Similar scenes played out across the former Dominion territory. Zephyrian governors abandoned their posts, fleeing toward the core worlds with whatever ships they could commandeer. Garrison forces found themselves outnumbered by suddenly rebellious populations who no longer feared their weapons. Captain Martinez received these reports with satisfaction as she toured the liberated worlds. Each world brought new horrors to light: mass graves, forced labor camps, systematic cultural destruction. But they also brought new allies eager to help humanity in its coming war against the Dominion. "Captain," Roy Thompson reported from the Defiance Thunder's bridge, "we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command." Martinez returned to her ship and activated the secure communication system. Admiral Frank Adams appeared on the holographic display, his weathered face showing both pride and concern. "Captain Martinez, your actions in the Kepler system have created quite a stir back on Earth. The Joint Chiefs are calling it the most significant military victory in human history." "Thank you, sir, but we were just doing our job." Adams smiled grimly. "Your job just became more complicated. Intelligence reports indicate massive Dominion fleet movements toward the core worlds. They are preparing for a war they never expected to fight. Martinez studied the tactical data atoms transmitted. The Zephyrians were pulling back their scattered forces, consolidating around their most important worlds. It was a sound defensive strategy, but it also meant abandoning hundreds of outer rim systems to human advance. What are your orders, Admiral? Hold position and continue liberation operations. The main battle fleet will arrive in 6 weeks with enough firepower to finish what you started. We are bringing 200 ships, including 12 vessels of your class. The thought of 12 ships like the Defiance Thunder operating together sent a thrill through Martinez's crew. That much concentrated firepower could challenge entire star systems. Engineer Carl Johnson had been analyzing captured Zephyrian technology during their occupation of Kepler. His reports painted a clear picture of an empire built on conquest, but lacking innovation. They had ruled through superior numbers and brutal tactics, not technological advancement. Their reactor technology is at least 50 years behind ours, he reported to the senior staff meeting. Their weapons rely on brute force rather than precision. Most importantly, they have no defense against our quantum-based systems. Dr. Clark added her observations about Zephyrian psychology. They are a warrior culture that respects only strength. Our victory here has shattered their belief in their own invincibility. Expect increasing desperation as we push toward their homeworlds. Jake Morrison had been coordinating with resistance movements across the former Dominion territory. His reports brought both hope and urgency to the human command structure. 17 species are ready to join our war effort, he announced. The Altarians can provide agricultural support for our expanding fleet. The Korthani have industrial capabilities that could boost our ship production. Even some of the smaller species offer unique advantages. Captain Martinez looked at the star charts, showing the expanding zone of liberated worlds. Each day brought new allies and new intelligence about Zephyrian weaknesses. But she also knew that their enemy would not go down without a fight. The liberation of the Kepler system had been easy because the Zephyrians were unprepared and overconfident. The battles ahead would be harder as their enemy adapted to human capabilities and fought with the desperation of a cornered predator. A message arrived from one of the liberated worlds that made Martinez smile. The survivors on Altair Prime were requesting permission to name their rebuilt capital city Martinez in honor of their liberators. Similar honors were being offered by grateful populations across the region. Respectfully declined, Martinez instructed Amy Watson, "Tell them to name their cities after their own heroes. They survived the occupation. We just gave them the tools to finish what they started." 3 weeks later, the advanced element of Admiral Adams' fleet began arriving in the Kepler system. Sleet destroyers and heavy cruisers took up patrol positions, while massive supply ships began establishing forward bases on liberated worlds. Admiral Adams himself arrived aboard the battleship Righteous Fury, a sister ship to Defiance Thunder. His flag bridge became the command center for humanity's first interstellar war. Status report, Captain. Adams requested as Martinez came aboard for the final planning conference. 17 worlds liberated, 43 enemy ships destroyed, 0 human casualties. Local resistance movements have eliminated most remaining Zephyrian ground forces. We estimate the outer rim is now 90% under Allied control. Adams nodded approvingly. Outstanding work. Now we prepare for the real challenge. Intelligence suggests the Zephyrians have assembled a fleet of over 3,000 ships around their homeworld. They intend to make their final stand there. The tactical displays show the Dominion's core territories, heavily fortified and bristling with defensive installations. It would be a difficult battle, but Martinez felt confident in humanity's ultimate victory. "Admiral," she said quietly, "there is something else. The liberated species are not asking to be protected. They are asking to fight alongside us. They want to be part of ending the Dominion forever." Adams considered this information carefully. An alliance of multiple species fighting together against a common enemy could become something more powerful than any single fleet. It could become the foundation of a new galactic order based on cooperation rather than conquest. Then we fight together, he decided. Send word to all allied worlds. Humanity calls upon its friends to join us in one final battle. Together, we will ensure that no species ever again suffers under Zephyrian oppression. The message went out across the liberated territories, carried by quantum transmitters to every world touched by human ships. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships began converging on the Kepler system from dozens of worlds, each one carrying crews determined to see justice done. Captain Martinez stood on the observation deck of the Defiant's Thunder, watching the massive Allied fleet assemble. Human battleships flew alongside Altarian agricultural vessels, converted to troop transports. Korthani mining ships have been fitted with weapons to serve as escort cruisers. Even the smallest species contributed what they could to the common cause. "It is beautiful," observed Kida, who had come aboard to represent his people in the final campaign. So many different worlds working as one. Martinez nodded, thinking of Elder Morhan and all the others who had died waiting for this day. This is what they died for. Not revenge, but the chance to build something better. The final transmission came from Admiral Adams as the fleet prepared to jump toward the Zephyrian homeworld. His words would be remembered by historians for centuries to come. Today we do not fight as humans, Altarians, Korthani, or any single species. Today we fight as free beings defending the right of all civilizations to exist in peace. The galaxy will remember this day as a moment when tyranny learned the price of its crimes. The Allied fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of billions of beings across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Dominion had ruled for 2 centuries through fear and violence. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had made humanity angry. And an angry humanity, supported by friends and allies, was the most dangerous force in the galaxy.